First order of business is to welcome Mr. Tom Ayer to the board. He just got sworn in, what, today?
Yesterday.
Tom has been in Caribou how long now?
My whole entire life.
So, yeah, that explains that.
20 years.
Well, we're glad you stepped up and we're glad you're on the board.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Next, we need to review the minutes from September 14th.
Make a motion that we approve the September 14th planning board meeting.
Second.
Motion and moved and seconded rather to approve the minutes as submitted. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Carries. Minutes are approved. Next item is Mr. Haney. A revision to the Glen Street plan, and once again, Mr. Haney is not here. Is there anyone here that's representing him? What's the wish of the board?
Can we push it back and maybe
Push it. We can push it back in the meeting,
Yeah, he might show up.
and maybe he'll show up.
Yeah.
I really would hate to table it again because it means re-notifying and starting another hearing and all that. So let's just change the agenda for now and move to item B, which is a proposed zone change from R1 to R2 on land that's west of Main Street, east of Collins Pond, south of Grove Street, to include properties on Grove, Myrtle, Columbus, Roberts, and Caribou Street. Public hearing on that is now open. No one wishes to discuss it? Then the hearing is closed. Just like that. Anyone on the board wish to discuss it? We've had this before us several times. Sir, two questions. Will you sign in? And before you do that, did you come to talk about Roberts Street?
No.
Okay, thank you. Anyone on the board have anything to say about this proposal?
I'd like to make a motion that we move the zoning R1 to an R2 to the city council for their review.
Approval?
Yep. Or for their public hearing, I guess.
Yep.
Is that how that would go?
Do they have another hearing?
Yes,
Oh, they
yes,
do?
council
Okay.
also.
Okay.
I'll second that.
That's been seconded by Mr. McDonough. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Can I ask a question on
Yes,
that?
sir.
Why is that being rezoned from an R1 to a 3? I mean, excuse me, from a 2 to a 3?
It's being zoned from a 1 to a 2.
That's, okay, that's what I mean. Why is it going from a C? Why is it going to a C2?
It's not going from C, it's going from R1 to R2.
We're on B.
We're on item B.
I guess I'm on the same page as you.
No, this is the agenda.
Okay, excuse me.
You all set?
Yeah.
All right. Then we'll put it to a vote. Or did we just do that?
We haven't voted.
No,
No.
it was moved and seconded.
All right. All in favor, please. Motion carries. Now, then, we are on item C. This is a proposed zoning change from C2 to R3 on land that's up around the junction of the West Presque Isle Road and Main Street, to include the city snow dump, or one of them, and on both sides of Main Street. And this just was originally precipitated because the landowner up there wants to be able to put a trailer on an adjacent lot for one of his family members. And under C2, that would not be allowed. Under R3, it would. And our zoning expert here suggested that we include some other lots in that same change because of the way they are currently being used. rather than the way they were being used when C2 was invented 30 years ago. So I declare the hearing open on that. Looking for any public input.
I've got a question on that. I'm out there in that area, and I've got a trailer for handicapped person out there, okay, on my lot. I was told if I decided to sell it, I could sell it with an acre of land. Is this gonna change that at all, or this is what I'm wondering about that. I own a couple of acres of land there, and that being the way it is, if you change the C2 to an R3, is that gonna change that at all, or is that gonna affect that, or?
Which property is yours, sir?
Mine is 30 West Presque Isle Road.
Are we
I've
that
got
far?
28, so is where with the trailer, the handicap trailer.
So I'm looking at the existing zoning map, and it looks like there are 3 lots on the south side of West Presque Isle Road. Would it be one of those first 3 lots?
Actually, it is, yes, it is,
I'm a little rusty on the neighborhood out there, but
just a second, I'll tell you what it is.
Okay, it looks like 13 that's just a vacant lot. And then there's,
Is, lot ID 008015. Lot 08016.
and those numbers are coming from the tax map, are they?
Yes, they are.
16 is not included in the change.
that's how they're noting the number, yeah.
Based on the highlighting.
Right.
Actually,
But as far as the lot numbers.
it's, the one you got highlighted is 15.
And that's your land, 15?
15, yeah.
It is, okay.
But the question is, would this change to R3 affect anything?
Change
And
the amount of land he has to have with it if he sells it.
You would actually, if I'm looking at this correctly, it would actually, you're saying you have a mobile home there now?
Right.
It would actually make your mobile home, instead of being classified as previously existing, a previously existing non-conforming use, it actually would make it a conforming use. So where the mobile home is there now, under whatever circumstances, probably preempting the placement of the ordinance, now your mobile home on that property would become just a standard R3. So it would be reducing it, or taking away that that nomenclature of previously existing yet non-conforming use. Something that's previously existing non-conforming use is allowed to continue in perpetuity, but if you were to, let's say, lose the mobile home or sell that off, after a period of 1 year, you would not be able to replace a mobile home on the site. But with this change, you could sell that mobile home and bring in a new mobile home. You could let the property sit vacant for a couple of years and still replace another new mobile home if you like.
As long as it's there right now, it would stay the same. What you're saying.
And what it would do, it actually changes so your neighbors on these lots that would be affected, mostly along South Main Street going down to the brook, they also could potentially have mobile homes.
Okay, yeah.
R3 is intended for rural dwellings, agriculture, timber harvesting, the types of things you'd find out in the country. So it's, in a sense, relieving a restriction of not allowing a mobile home in a part of Caribou that could be considered out in the country.
Okay.
Did I?
thank you.
I do have one question. What is the size lot required to put on like a mobile home?
To create a new lot, minimum lot size is 1 acre.
Okay. This is, the one we're talking about is the existing lot, it had one a lot of years ago.
And I think we looked this up, did I? I know I saw Kenny coming.
Yeah,
But I think we looked it up, and the land in question actually consists of 2 separate 1/2 acre lots. So in order to have a subsurface wastewater disposal system, being that the city's public sewer doesn't run out that far, it's 20,000 square feet by state law for a subsurface wastewater disposal system
Okay.
on a parcel. So where the house is now, that would be 1 lot. The lot where the mobile home will sit will be a 2nd lot. Each lot has to have a legally recorded subsurface system prior to the mobile home being set up and occupied.
Any other questions on this issue? Well, then I'll declare the hearing closed. Any board members have any comments? We good to go on this?
Make a motion to send this to the city council for their approval based on their public hearing as well.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Carries. Okay, let me look at the agenda. Let's take things continue to take things a little bit out of order. Item 4 on the agenda is new business. Is there any? I don't see any. Item 5, review of the zoning map. What were we going to do there tonight? Anything?
Dennis asked me to put this on the agenda.
Oh,
Yes.
where's Ben?
Okay, let me go check, because he's also supposed to do a planning board training. You guys are moving fast, so.
Well, that's because
Yeah, no, it's good.
the
Troy
major
was not
issue
here.
for the
Yeah.
evening hasn't arrived yet.
And I think Dennis had been in communications with Troy.
Yes, yeah, actually he has been. And there's an application and an updated plan in front of you, so.
I was gonna say, everything that I've seen for Troy, I don't see,
You want
I
to
guess I
proceed
don't-
without him?
well, I don't see why we would need him here, right? I mean,
I don't think so.
My only concern is that I see a lot of people out here that might want to ask him a question.
okay.
Okay.
Thrown out.
Are there new communications? Okay, Dennis, I guess if he gets here, our city manager is going to talk about planning board training.
You've got the staff report, I think, the thing attached. This is part of the staff report.
Okay.
So we could probably,
If you feel
no,
comfortable,
I mean, with the map, I think we should probably schedule some kind of
work
a
session.
work session for the land use table, so we can get that, start working on that, I guess.
Yeah, everybody's comfortable with the map the way it is now?
I think it looks pretty good.
I haven't seen the latest version. I did not get,
We had the other night, so there's been changes.
oh, there was a workshop that I
made
could
to
not
this.
attend.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So there's been changes made to that map, but, I mean, minor changes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's,
It was more or less like smoothing out following property lines. and
Yeah.
then, a couple other small
but
changes.
all the major stuff,
But
as we discussed all along?
The
Okay.
land use table is, we need to spend some time on it.
Mr. Marco will be right down.
All right.
Should we start the?
Staff report.
Okay.
No, wait, that might be
Yeah.
good,
Yeah, is that
Yeah,
part
that's,
of,
yeah,
is that buried in the
that's what I
package here
kind of chimed in
someplace?
about, so.
Yeah.
Okay, item 7.
Number 7. Yeah.
Yeah, I see it on the agenda, but is there anything in the package?
There is towards the back. It should be the last.
Has to do,
The last of it.
have to do with the auto sale? Go ahead, Penny, you want to make staff report, please do.
Pardon me, coming through. So the last thing in your packet was 21 pages because, you know, why do when you can overdo? And it has to do with 554 Access Highway, which, if you're not familiar with the building, it's across from Dodo's. It's been apartments for quite a while. And most recently, there was also a day spa there too, beauty shop. In the last few years, it's been added on to a couple of times. They had a building permit out for a garage and also to expand one of the apartments to be like a 3-bedroom apartment. So in the course, so this was precipitated because Russell Levesque, who formerly had a auto dealer across the street when he owned Dodo's, is now interested in, since he no longer owns Dodo's, he would like to have an auto sales across the street at that place. And his broker that he's working with, Stephanie Bollier, is here. In the packet, I just have different things about when he had his dealership. Staff had no issues with the dealership across the street. He had his paperwork from the state. He had a certificate of occupancy. He has filled out a site design review application because before, when he had his dealership, it was zoned RC2 out there, so he didn't need to come to the planning board. Staff could sign off on it, but now that the zoning has changed from RC2 to R3, now it needs to come to the planning board, which is why we're here.
Okay.
That's, I guess, the major thing. One of the things we always look at with a change of use, if it is hooked up to a private septic system instead of the public sewer, is it adequate for the use that's proposed? So the last thing you see in there is the most current septic design, but you'll notice there are no signatures from our plumbing inspector on that. So this week we've been trying to get to the bottom of that to find out if this new system was actually installed or not. The current system was not malfunctioning, however, because one of the units was expanded to be a 3-unit apartment, it needed to have at least a new septic designed, and that septic design recorded in Holton, so that anyone purchasing the property would realize that perhaps the design that was in place may not be adequate for that use and may fail at some time. There is a note on there that also says that, and also says that at a minimum, the site evaluator felt that a second tank should be installed. I spoke with Stephanie. I've spoke with April Karen, who's the listing agent, to see if she had any correspondence from the owners to see if they knew if something was installed. You'll see the permit was issued in November, which is not the ideal time to be installing subsurface wastewater disposal systems. So we looked to see if maybe the next year it was installed. We can't find anything out about it. April Karen came to my office this morning right at 8 to say she had talked to the owner, who said that Dick St. Peter installed it. I called Dick. I don't even know if I should be going to all this trouble, but anyway, I was trying to come to you with some kind of answer. Dick said that he had not done any work there. The only thing he remembered was Bob Massey did a slab. So he doesn't know what was done there. So I also tried to determine so that I could give it to our plumbing inspector to see if what the new system's been designed for. It was, the beauty shop was 100 gallons per day. If that was sufficient for retail auto sales, what I found in the subsurface rules didn't seem to address it unless it's in some code that only plumbing inspectors can understand. So that's all I have, unless you have a question for me, or if you have a question for the potential buyer's agent who is here.
I mean, I'm assuming that he's going to just be doing business like he was at Dodo. He's not gonna be doing,
Do you want to come up here, Stephanie? Are you all done with me, you think? Or?
I think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
I mean, we're not gonna get in another issue like we had earlier this year, right, about remodeling cars or stripping down
All he
cars.
wants to do is exactly, this is Stephanie Bollier, if you're recording the meeting. All he wants to do is just exactly what he did before. He had it's pretty much a hobby for him, but as you know, I retired out from just what he's getting approved for the state. And I spoke to my replacement, Chad Foley, Detective Chad Foley with the Bureau of Motor Vehicle, and he and I are both in compliance that he would pass at the state level. And at the state level, you cannot sell more than 2 or 3 cars without having a state of Maine license through the Bureau of Motor Vehicle. He's not looking to have more than just what he had at Dodo's Market.
I don't think he ever had more than 3 or 4 cars.
And that's all he has, but in order to display that amount of cars, you have to be licensed through the state, through the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. So that's the reason why. And his contract for the sale of that is contingent upon planning board approval.
Is he gonna be changing oil, doing,
In fact, he's going to be contracting all the work out. To be in compliance with a state law through the Bureau of Motor Vehicle, to be a licensed car dealer at the state level, he has to have a repair facility that is 400 square feet and tools there. He clearly meets that requirement. In the office, I don't know if you guys have ever been to the back to that building, but in the back of the garage, there's another place off to in the back that he would utilize as his office space. So they would not be in the living quarters of that house at all. The septic design, there wouldn't be, people are coming in, buying a car, signing paperwork and leaving. And it clearly meets the requirements for the 400 square feet in the repair facility. However, he's contracting all the work out. He's not going to be changing oil. He's not going to be doing any of that at that location. He wants to have a nice shiny car sitting on the lot, going to a different facility for inspection, going to a different facility if something were deemed, a brake needed to be changed. None of that would be taking place that I'm aware of that he's stating at that place. It's simply moving what he had at Dodo's across the street to a new. He moved away. He wants to come home. Simple as that. And he wants to come back to the area that he's well known, familiar with.
Yes. But we don't know if the septic is in compliance with the current conditions. Is
It's
that-
not malfunctioning, but your plumbing inspector's right here. He knows a lot more about that than I do. I've just been trying to.
That would be me.
I just figured that out.
What happens with these projects?
Thanks,
sometimes- They had done an expansion in the residence, and I think it was a couple additional bedrooms and a bathroom on the second floor of the building. Part of the expansion, whenever a structure or dwelling has one additional bedroom added to it, the state now considers that a major expansion of the internal plumbing system, being that it's 90 gallons per day per bedroom, the design factor for septic systems. Somewhere in the last few years, and I'm a little fuzzy on this is 2009, prior to the implementation of the state's definition that one bedroom was a major expansion, we were allowed to let people pull a plumbing permit and a building permit and expand their dwellings 1 bedroom without any additional paperwork. So if you had a 3-bedroom home and you wanted to do an addition and put a 4th bedroom home on it, that was considered a minor expansion up until the state's change. And the change was back around 2009. So the owners of the property at that time came in, being that they were expanding and adding like a hair shop downstairs on the south end of the building next to the driveway, additional plumbing fixtures, additional plumbing in the bathroom upstairs. That triggered the need for the revised plan for the additional chamber system behind the existing system that was there yet working well. The state's idea is that a site evaluator needs to visit the site now, even for a single bedroom addition. They need to visit the site. The system is not failing, it's working perfectly well, but in order to get that 1 bedroom expansion, the house now appears to be a 4-bedroom house, what used to be a 3. So the design has to be done, and that design needs to be recorded at the registry, so a potential next new owner, when they are doing their due diligence of looking into the property, when they go to the registry to get a copy of the deed, they're also going to be notified that the house does not actually have a system properly sized for what the house appears to be. So it's a way that it's a heads up to the next owner that you're buying a 4-bedroom house that might only have a 3-bedroom size septic system. It's a safeguard. So it could be, being that they came into City Hall, paid for the permit in November, we do not allow people to install systems in November, being that once the ground is frozen, you can't be putting in septic systems. So it could be that they never did actually come back in and say, we need to have the inspections to go with the permit that was issued. Could be that it just fell through a crack in the system. So it could be that the additional septic system was not installed. My mind has no recollection of looking at a chamber system installed on that property.
And let me ask you, my next question is, if we can't determine that it was ever done, does that preclude moving forward with this plan?
I don't think so. I mean, if it's
It's just gonna be on the buyer, on the buying end.
It's the
that he has to
buyer's
make sure-
risk.
it's that caveat emptor that, you know,
All right,
let
and
the
then-
buyer beware. But this actually brings it forward that it should be known to the buyer that
Right.
potentially the number of bedrooms, and with the wastewater disposal from, let's say, the hair shop, does not meet the plumbing codes for what appears to be is it a 3-family home? 3 families? So is it a 3-family home with how many bedrooms, Stephanie? 6 maybe? 6. So again, the house originally may have been a 2-family home, possibly 6 bedrooms, possibly only 4. So with that increase in use, you can expect the system to fail that much sooner.
Right. But from a planning board standpoint, though,
Not an issue.
it's not an issue for us, so it's just
All right.
information.
So is this just a concept? I mean,
He's gonna,
because we will have to put
The-
this on
the-
a public hearing, right?
It
We have to
requires a
get-
public hearing at the planning board, so if you could give Stephanie in a sense, a straw poll opinion of if they come back, being that it's a contingency in the sale of the property, that the Caribou Planning Board approve this location to be a used car lot prior to Russ actually signing and purchasing the property. Did I get that right?
We're looking to close in 2 weeks.
We can't have the hearing that fast.
yeah.
No, and we understand that.
Okay.
And he clearly understands that. He is just wanting a 99.9% chance that's the whole reason why he's specific to that location. He wants to move back from Litchfield, that location, that's his home area, have a little car dealership, and come home. He's selling his home, closing on this one, the 20th or 21st. Again, contingent upon planning board approval. He obviously cannot have the dealership licensed through the state until it's met the planning board approval. And he's aware that, it could take a couple months, you said? He's aware that it could take a couple of months. But he's obviously wanting a little bit of reassurance that when we go to the planning board, there's not going to be a hiccup.
Well, then, all we can do is ask for a consensus of the board members present. Do you folks feel that we can, in good faith?
Did we switch that to an R3, right?
Yes, it's R3.
Yes, I mean, it's.
He actually switched it to an R3, I believe,
Yeah, we
didn't he?
switched it to an R3.
It was
So, I
done
mean-
after he left.
Yeah.
It was?
Yeah, so it's an allowed use
It's a lot.
Yeah.
with planning board approval. I mean, I don't see any issue why we can't, with a straw poll.
Yeah.
And he understands he has to go through step A, B, and C to get there.
You know, it's the buyer beware thing, we don't have anything to do with it.
Right.
I'm okay with
You're
it.
talking in regards to the septic
Yeah,
ball,
yeah.
correct, yeah.
Yeah, as far as him putting a dealership there, I mean, it's an allowed use in that area. And from the lot size, it looks like he's got all kinds of room, so.
Okay.
Everything
course,
that I
he-
know about Russ and everything that I've seen here, I have no problem.
Yeah.
That's the best straw poll you're gonna get, Stan.
Perfect. Thanks, Pat. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
Stephanie.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen and ladies. We've done that. Dennis, I don't want you to have to stand out there in the hallway forever. We've got a hearing that was supposed to happen, that's not happening yet because the principal hasn't shown up. So what have you got for us? Anything?
Just, I guess to report that the zoning map was updated based on the comments that you gave at your last work session, as far as adjusting some of the zoning laws. And so that's ready if you want to continue those discussions.
Is it appropriate to schedule a hearing on that, a public hearing on that zoning map change? Can we decouple that from the allowed use table so that we can move ahead?
Well, you could, I mean, it's at the board's discretion
Yeah.
to go ahead with that. And again, the board would be merely sending it to the city council for the city council for their review.
The issue there is that your zoning map now has a zone on it that you don't actually have on the books.
Yeah, right, I think
We need to have our land use and our zoning map, I think, need to go hand in hand.
Okay.
As a group, up to the city council.
Well, then there's not much we can do about that tonight.
Do you know anything about the Troy Haney property that we're questioning?
Just that,
I guess I should speak to the mic.
It's not tall enough for you.
I know. As far as I know, the last time I spoke with Troy was probably a month and a half ago, and he was working with some very tight time constraints on the project, on when he would be able to actually purchase the units to bring them into Caribou. I think Steve's probably had the last conversation with him, if anybody. But what he's hoping to do is, instead of having the 8 condominium units in 4 duplex buildings, he wants to take 2 of those future buildings and make them into an 8-unit townhome development. You have the plans in front of you, the packet. We've informed Mr. Haney that there are still information that we're missing. We can't issue a building permit with what he's given us because it's not completely accurate for what we would need for the records. But as far as the site layout goes, we've reviewed that. Public Works has reviewed it. They have no concerns with it. The police department's reviewed it, has no concerns with it. As far as the overall impact from the change in the use, it's still going to be a multifamily development. You're adding 4 more units, but traffic-wise, that's not much more of an impact than what was being proposed there. And although he's not here tonight, I'd recommend that if you go through that criteria, the list, and I think you can do that tonight, and you'll find that it's something that could be approved, even though he's not here. And we just need to work with him on the side to make sure he gets all the information necessary for a building permit before he breaks ground. But as far as the site review aspect of it that you're looking at, we don't see any issues with that.
All right.
We have people out there that have questions.
Yeah, I have to open a hearing. We haven't done that yet. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mulder. Well, if the board is good with going ahead with the hearing without the principal applicant here, then we'll open the hearing on the Troy Haney Glen Street plan. I presume that there's folks out here that want to have something to say about that.
Yes. I don't mean it quite that high. Roy Woods, and I have property at 31 Elmwood, which is right back to this project. With the projected 4 units, I didn't have an issue. But looking at this, and I did have questions as to if this new building is a 2-story building or single-story.
It's
It looks
It's
like,
designed such that from the parking lot side, you would have a single-story building from the parking lot side.
Okay.
But the topography is such that the garages
Or
would be
underneath.
tucked underneath on the backside.
Okay.
So you would have no, I'm sorry. It'd be 2-story from the parking lot side, but the garages would still be tucked underneath.
So it'd be 3.
So it'd be 3-story.
Depending on the lay of the land.
Bus garage side.
Does it say, is the
three-
bu-
three stories.
Does it say, are the garages gonna be facing the bus garage
Yes.
side? Is that the plan? Okay.
We're basically talking 3 stories. Garage.
well, with the
The
garage,
foundation-
the garage is tucked into the ground.
Yeah, the
I know,
foundation
but
is
it's still a
garage.
story, it's still a floor. So it's a 3-floor building, what I'm saying. Two of which will be above ground, and I have an issue with that. I really don't want a multi-plex like that behind me. Privacy issues. Got a sister with me that has property next to it with an indoor pool, fencing, and they'll be looking right down into the pool.
The way it's
I was gonna say, the way it looks.
There's no
Roy, is that
windows
there's no
facing your
windows,
property.
east-west.
Be still people coming and going, and it would be a little beehive behind the whole facility, with quite a bit of increase in population. The original design of 4 buildings was quite neat looking and didn't have an issue with that at all. But now putting in a 2nd-story apartment building there, I do have an issue. I'm sure there'll be porches on the front. Doesn't show it, doesn't show anything. So. Okay, there's windows upstairs.
This would be the back.
That's the back. What's the other side?
We don't have an elevation for the front.
We don't see the other side. I'm sure there'd be
The
windows.
way it's drawn, it appears to me that it's similar to what he's done with his other units, is that they'll have a fenced-in patio on one side.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
for
the
the
way it
first
looks to me,
floor.
So I think.
For the first floor.
For the first floor, but there's nothing on the second floor. There's no patio coming out on the second floor that I.
No windows either?
There's no patios coming out.
There's no windows or?
There's windows going towards the bus garage and towards his other units, but there's no windows facing Elmwood on the ends.
Yeah, I understand, on the very end. But the back side, the side facing the other units, there'll be windows.
Yeah, there's.
It's just
Those are bedroom areas up there that are gonna be on the second floor.
Yeah.
So I think in my opinion, the way he's laid this out, it looks like he's taking, his tenants' privacy into concern along with those in the surrounding
Oh, I don't think
neighborhoods,
so.
because, he's blocked off, straight lines of sight to other properties. It's not like they're gonna be able to go to a bedroom window and look right over to Elmwood.
Sure they can. They're gonna be able to go in the bedroom window and look
They
in.
would have to hang their head out the window to look.
No, they wouldn't.
Isn't there
That's-
2-story apartments on Elmwood too? Isn't there?
There are.
Yeah.
Okay. I see.
Running parallel with the road versus perpendicular, I believe.
It is far enough back that way, so it would be looking right down into the pool area, my backyard. So I have a major issue with it. Is this going to be sprinkled too?
But that's all up to,
I
I
doubt.
think it was noted.
The other,
Under code. Under code, it has to be.
Yeah, undercoated would have to be in order to meet it.
sprinkled?
Yeah.
Goodness knows.
Not unless they've changed the
We
code.
would have to do
They have.
firewall protections
Yeah.
between units and up in the ceilings. But again, as Penny said, we don't have the plans to confirm that.
Part of the problem I have looking at this whole package, Mr. Marker, is that it's called an 8-unit construction and all the floor plans are for 6 units, not 8.
No, the total, I think it's the total with the other units that are already there.
No.
So, as I said, the building plans, what you're looking at,
They're not,
they have to submit a 8-unit building plan as proposed to get a building permit.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the site improvements and all of the,
Right.
as far as all that goes, that's really that second site plan that you're looking at.
This is just a concept design, basically.
Right, those are-
So based on the concept design, yes. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Okay, we appreciate your comments, Mr. Woods. Anyone else?
I'm Janet Woods. I have lot 40 on your map, and I am directly behind the proposed new building. And I echo what Roy has said. I object to a 2-story building for 3 things. One, the privacy concern that I would have. My 7-foot fence isn't going to hide much of that, 2nd story at least. The other thing is the obstructed view, which I'll be looking at a 2-story building, or the end of one anyway. And then I wonder too about the, it's zoned for a condominium, is that correct? That zoning is for condominiums. It's my understanding that they haven't been sold yet, the one that's completed. The one that's directly behind the lot next door to me is still empty. It's still just studs on the inside, so that's not been completed. Now we're talking about making another 8-unit building, a 2-story building. So I'm thinking if they're being rented, now it becomes rental property. That changes the face of it quite a bit from a condominium to a rental property. Which then makes me wonder about property values if I resell down the road and that kind of thing. So those are my concerns and my objections to a 2-story building being constructed on that site.
I have a couple of questions. How tall are the trees between your lot and Mr. Haney's lot?
Trees?
Trees and shrubs, there's quite a few.
There's none.
No.
Well, I just drove by the other day, I saw a lot of greenery.
That would be the house next door, the empty house, probably, LMA's house. Or the ones in Mom's property, maybe. Yeah. That kind of hides the new building that's not been completed, the one that's done. The exterior is completed, but the interior has not been done.
When you drive down Glen, look right at her fence.
That's completely open.
Okay, maybe I wasn't looking in the right place, I thought I saw trees. Thank you, Janet.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have anything to say? Any board members have any questions for the public? All right, then, the hearing is closed. Yeah, it's 6:15. All right, I have the original with me. We need to do the fact finding on A through R and S 1 through 37. Shall we begin? Item A, what's the issue on this site, if any, with pollution? Don't declare that there's no issue, or that it's satisfied, or that it's not applicable?
I don't see that there's an issue with it, with pollution. It's no different than anything else in the surrounding area.
Is there sufficient water supply? Well, it's city water, so I think yes.
Well, that'd be question C too, though.
Yep.
All right, good point. Question C is a yes. Question 2, or B rather, is an NA. Do we have erosion issues? It's a pretty level lot, except for that edge by the parking garage, or the bus garage. What do you think, folks?
I don't see any erosion issues. I don't see any other issues with traffic either.
I don't see any issues with traffic either.
Sewage and solid waste are gonna fall under city, so I don't see any issues with that as well.
Solid waste will be privately contracted, sewage will
Oh,
be
yes,
city.
I'm sorry.
Okay, aesthetic, cultural, and natural values. I can understand people's concerns with a two-story building above ground as opposed to a one-story building above ground. As far, in as much as I can understand it, if it's an allowed use, there's not much we can do.
Correct.
Chairman, we may be able to approach him without putting some plantings on the
Yeah,
side
we
of the
could
property.
put a condition on it about some visual shielding, yes, absolutely. Let's keep that in mind. Good suggestion, thank you. So what do we say about H? We okay with it?
I'm fine with it.
Yep.
Conformity with local ordinance and plans, well, that's a yes.
Yes.
Financial and technical capacity. It's hard to say without Mr. Haney here to tell us where he's at. But I don't see him going broke anytime soon. What's the board's pleasure on item J?
I'm fine with marking that as yes.
Yes.
Surface water and outstanding river segments, I suggest is not applicable.
I agree.
Groundwater, there's a drainage system, well, there will be.
I think flood areas and freshwater wetlands, river, stream, or brook are probably all non-applicable.
I agree with you. Stormwater will go into the storm drains on Glen Street. Spaghetti lots is not applicable. Lake phosphorus concentration is not applicable.
The impact is not applicable.
On adjoining municipalities, no. Blocks, what does blocks mean? We've talked about this before. That's for a major subdivision.
Right.
Not an issue here. The subdivision as proposed is near the fire station, it's near shopping, it's across the street from a school, it's right near a park in the rec facility,
It's a yes.
so I think that's a yes. Performance guarantees, do we get into performance guarantees on this? Is he gonna have to put up
Possibly,
a bond?
if you had,
If we have conditions, you'll have to bond that.
a lot of times it deals with roadway infrastructure.
Yeah.
Water and sewer development, developments within a certain distance to the public sewer system could require a bond to be posted prior to approval. Again, it's at the board's discretion.
I'm making a note on performance guarantees that we might require one on the shielding vegetation as a condition.
And actually, Bob, back in the review, there's a section on buffers and screening.
Mm-hmm.
So again, part of the review criterion, if the board
Right.
so
Yeah.
chose, you could negotiate with the developer that, some
Mhm.
plantings possibly, or
Parking, driveways, roads, and sidewalks.
We'll say that's.
It was good before.
Yep.
Yes.
Archaeological sites. No one's found any arrows. I think that's a not applicable. I don't think there's any easement for natural drainage. There wasn't any on the original site plan that I saw. Erosion and sedimentation control, it's a flat lot. Fire protection, municipal, less than a mile. Number 15, impact on natural beauty, aesthetics, historic sites, wildlife habitat, etc.
Say
Say again?
I'd say it meets, I don't say it's gonna impact it.
No impact is what you say. Shoreline, number 16 is a not applicable, there is no shoreline. 18, lots and density, I don't think it violates that at all. Monumentation, that's an issue that would be up for discussion if we were doing a multi-lot subdivision and we would want them to use appropriate boundary markers. I don't think monumentation is an issue here. My own opinion, I think it's not applicable.
I agree.
Preservation of natural features. There aren't any. It was an empty lot. Rear lots, that does not mean the lots that are the other householder lots that are on the next street and backed up. Rear lots has to do with, is the developer trying to develop lots with narrow driveways into them, putting them out there, and it's not applicable in my opinion.
Right.
Common land, open space, I don't think there's any been proposed. Sewage disposal is municipal. Sidewalks exist on Glen Street. Same with stormwater management. Street trees, open green space, Esplanade. Again, that would apply to a major subdivision. I don't think it applies to a 2-acre lot. Utilities are sufficient.
Water supply is sufficient.
Water supply is sufficient. And now we can get down to conditions for approval. I think the suggestion about putting in screening vegetation along the back side of the lot is an excellent one. I don't know the species of tree that grows tall and fast, but there is one out there. Does anybody know? Yes, sir.
It's called a linden
Yes.
tree, and if I may make a comment, there's 5 or 6 of them that were removed where the superintendent's office is. I don't know if they've been replanted, but they were removed with a hydraulic unit that kept the root ball intact. If Gary has not replanted those, and he's saving to do that, after the new school's been built or something, you might be able to scrounge 2 or 3 and give them an immediate buffer because I empathize with them.
Yeah.
I think
rather
Gary
look at-
does have plans for those. Is from what I've been talking with Gary, he has plans for those trees. I think replanting them, but I think a linden tree would.
Well, if you can borrow them, they.
Then there's a cost to digging them up again too.
I mean, they're probably about 20 feet high when they were dug up. So it would give them an immediate buffer, and then we can order some younger ones to grow elsewhere. But it solves an issue for these folks.
Is that something you folks would be happy with? Is that type of vegetation in between the buildings?
I don't know in my lifetime that I would have any benefit from that.
They grow very fast, Jim.
Well,
10
at
feet a year.
80 years old, I'm not going to have a lot of time to worry about it.
Plus the increase in traffic.
Yeah, it's just.
4 more apartments. 4 more apartments on that lot that was never designed for that. It was approved with the city council approval in the first place for 4 buildings there. Why are we changing it?
Because the applicant has requested the change, and it's within the bylaw.
It's an allowed use, and I mean, I don't think you're gonna see that kind of influx in traffic.
It won't be any more on his
4
street.
more apartments?
There might be 4 more departures and arrivals per day on Glen Street. I don't see that as impacting the neighboring streets. Glen Street is likely to become one-way north, and they'll be going out to Bennett Drive on the earliest opportunity. In most cases. All right, what I've written down so far for conditions of approval are linden trees or other similar species to be planted on the rear lot line. Recommended spacing on those? You have one? 10 feet?
No, 20, 25 feet.
Let's say 20. Troy doesn't like that, we can negotiate it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a point to negotiate with him with regards to that as well. I don't think we're gonna hold his feet to the fire with regards to that.
You can mix that with conifers, because there's a row of conifers that are planted there that have to be either removed or...
See, I thought there were conifers there.
There are.
Yeah.
Next, facing the garage.
Oh, facing the garage. No, I don't face the, I only go on the back. Okay, we had a condition, a performance, something or other. Where is it? I put a star in it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks very much. Oh. I thought I put it, there it is. Performance guarantees. Yeah, I've made a note, shielding vegetation. All right. Any other conditions we want to impose on this?
If I might suggest that your performance guarantees would also, by ordinance, require if they're going to disrupt or disturb any existing public infrastructure, that would have to be replaced. So the sidewalks, I know that they're planning to put that new driveway in, and need to.
Right, curb cuts and.
The curb cuts.
Repair and replace, okay.
They would
Repair.
have to get an opening permit from Public Works for that.
Right.
There's no sidewalk on that side.
Yeah,
They're not.
no, on the opposite side of the road.
So it's just.
It ends just about, well, yeah, it ends just about right there. There's a sidewalk all the way up in front of Ireland's place? Or I thought it ended right at the house on the corner, Ireland's house.
At the corner.
Well, that's on the corner of Sperry.
Right, but before, on the, not at the intersection side, but on the back side of it, adjacent to the super's office, right?
Yes, it ends up right there.
Yeah.
Then they have trucks a little bit.
Okay. Any further suggestions for conditions? We have two. We have the vegetation.
And it's it's something we can add as well, so I mean.
Well, once we sign this, we're not going to add anything.
Complete the.
That's why.
Right, that's true.
Keep asking the question.
Covered sidewalks, covered vegetation. I can't see any others.
Do we need to put in something about seeing the final
That's a building permit
Yeah,
issue.
That's a separate, okay.
Yeah, that'll, site design review.
That was just like.
Because this is just for the
Just like the
redesign of the
school
subdivision.
administration building, we got to approve the parking lot, but we had nothing to say about the building design.
I make a motion that we approve it with the conditions stipulated.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve with the conditions we've talked about. Any further discussion?
Sorry,
That's all right.
would you please add some information as to the finding that it meets the criteria as part of the motion?
Sure, I'll amend my motion. I move we approve it with the conditions that it meets based on the findings.
I'm sorry, not a condition, just that you.
With a statement.
As a board, that you found that it complies with.
Okay, I've made notes against every check item here, so whoever wants to write the finding of fact can go by that. Right, Steve?
Yes.
Steve writes good fact-finding papers.
Don't wake him up.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor of approval? All right, motion carries. I'll need some, we're gonna have to sign this tonight, and it's going in as approved with conditions. On October 12th.
Thanks for your input.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I need 4 of the signatures. Let's start with Evan. And there's some more information I need to add to that when it comes back this way. Map 35.
Seems like it's 9 o'clock.
I know.
What are you talking about? I haven't had breakfast yet.
Okay. Anything else that we need to do tonight? Go ahead. I knew you had some.
So just a matter of training for the planning board. If you're okay, what I'd like to do is prepare a 5 to 10 minute training associated with each of your meetings. It can be at the end or at the very beginning, however you'd like, but either on a just general operations of the meeting or certain land use laws or procedural things, just to give you a better understanding, I think, and of your role. Some of you have been on a while, so you may understand that really well, but I know that Mr. Ayers, is it Ayer or Ayer? Ayer, okay.
Like the stuff you breathe.
Okay.
Same thing.
So, fairly new, but there's usually good bits of information that can come out that we can share with you. I think keep you abreast of the latest of zoning issues, land use issues, subdivision stuff. And wanted to just share with you quickly tonight some quick training on motions. I know there was some discussion with this particular application of could you hold a special meeting on it or not. And there was quite a bit going back and forth of we want to facilitate development, and so let's just get it done, and so on. And I believe that all got resolved because we went back to the official motion that was recorded, and the motion itself was that it be tabled to the next meeting, which meant that there's different ways of tabling items. You can table it, which basically just means you'll bring it back whenever you feel like it, or there's continuing it, which means it just goes to the next meeting automatically, or in the motion you made was tabled to the next meeting,
or you tabled it to a certain date. And so there's that part of continuing items that just to be sensitive to and how you word those types of motions and what your intents are. Sometimes you may want to give yourself some leeway to say, we'll just table it, and when it's ready to come back, we'll take care of it. Or, as was done previously, table it to a date certain. Sometimes that's good because there may be public present that wants to know for sure when is it going to come back, and doing that type of a motion, it gives the public foreknowledge, and it also means that we may not have to notice the public again through mailers because they were noticed at that meeting, it was tabled to a date certain, and anybody that had any interest in it would have the information they need to show up to the next meeting. Particularly tonight, as I was bringing up the motion on approving the site plan and zonings, particularly subdivisions. When an action is taken by the planning board, it becomes an official action unless it's a recommendation to the city council. In that case, the city council takes the final action, and the city council needs to make sure the motions are done appropriately. For you, when it's a final action that you're taking, then we need to recognize that it can be appealed from here. And if it gets appealed, the information that appeal body is going to get is the staff packets that you received, the minutes that were drafted up, and the appeal is going to look at what was the formal action that was taken and why. And so the formal action that you took tonight was to approve with conditions, right? The why is not as clear in the motion, okay? And so typically when you make a motion for approval and it's your final action that could be appealed, you can include in your motion, we're doing this because we've found that it complies with all of the review criteria that are in the ordinance or in the statute.
Is that not covered though by the fact that we have this annotated checklist? This is part of the record.
It's part of the record, but the formal motion that you make, the verbal motion, that's solidifying it, saying we've gone through this and we found all this to be the case, and thus we're approving it. Okay. And if it goes to a court, the judge is going to say, what was your motion? And even though they say, well, we did the checklist, I say, well, what was your formal motion? And so it's a good procedure to go through that we found that so long as these conditions are met, it meets all of the requirements of all the statutes, and it's permitted in the zone. That was mentioned tonight. That could be a finding of fact, so to speak, in your motion. Typically, what I've done and what we hope to do with the new zoning administrator when they get hired is prepare possible motions for you to consider.
Be super.
And in that way, basically you could almost refer to the staff packet and say, we move to take action according to the staff recommendations. And then
reference them in the motion.
Reference those in, and they would probably have possible recommendations for conditions or findings. Otherwise, you could state those yourselves or add to them or do whatever. But just to be aware, again, when it's your job to take the final action, it's good to have these little things in place into the motion, especially when they get recorded. Sometimes the recordings themselves could get subpoenaed, and they say, well, what was actually said? Because the minutes themselves are not verbatim minutes. Their intent is to convey the general discussion, the general ideas that were discussed or brought up, the major issues, but they're not verbatim. And so where we have recorded minutes, that's what they're going to rely on a lot of times. And again, the reason why it's good to have a verbal statement of these are our findings of fact, why we're doing what we're doing, and any conditions associated with it. Any questions on that?
No, I think you've made some very good points. Good point.
Okay. So next planning board meetings, if there's any specific training that you want, feel free to shoot me an email or something. I'm happy to prepare, again, just a 5-10 minute snippet on some of the latest things that we have coming down or that are being considered. So, okay.
Very good.
Thank you
Dennis.
very much. Appreciate it. Just a side note, also, you guys, Phil Sear and I both have our terms ending on December 31st, and we have both decided that we intend to reapply for another term. Phil's not here tonight because he's out of town on business. The other thing, he sent me an email, and this was not out of bounds because it was just an email between two people. He sent me an email suggesting that I be chairman and he be vice chair because of his work schedule. And my response to that was, let's wait till the next election, which is next fall.
At the organizational meeting in January? Is that what you're referencing, Bob?
No, don't we have it in September?
It's January.
No, it's January.
Oh, it's
Early
January. Oh
organizational
dear,
meeting.
I'm in trouble now. Okay. Well, we'll see what the board wants to do in January. I think I'm going to have to be absent for that meeting. Anything else to come before the board?
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor? We are adjourned.